start to, these types of thoughts begin to surface in our mind because of our pain. The emotions do have a lot to do with apostasy, right? As we said before, or conversion or deconversion. When people become Christian and when people become Muslim, they do it for emotional reasons. They're going through something and they're seeking God. So, my thing is, you can't, for me personally, everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own perceptions. But as far as God is concerned, I have this subjective gnosis that God is real, and it's difficult for me to deny that subjective experience. So, what I would say for you in terms of doubts is just continuously, connect with God more than trying to think about this logically, more than trying to prove something. Like, try to actually experience God, experience life, and understand what life or God is communicating to you. What lessons are you learning in life? Everybody's learning lessons constantly. People, the stress and suffering that you're going through, the drama and the trauma that you're going through, that is God speaking to you personally. And, it's up to you to be able to perceive that, appreciate it, learn from it, grow from it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it is, it's hard being Muslim in America. I think you would agree with that. And ever since Trump got in office, it's even worse with, the whole political atmosphere and stuff like that. Like, we're not in the Obama days anymore. We're in the Trump days, and the Trump days are, he wants to force immigrants out and stuff like that. So are you affected by the new political atmosphere in 2017? Are you affected by, the whole Trump thing and,
I mean, I've had this conversation with Republicans, right? When it comes to Republicans, I can appreciate conservative values. Definitely capitalism is important, right? Capitalism is important. Fiscal conservatism, has a place. Fiscal conservatism has a place, and it should be considered. Social conservatism and moral conservatism, I understand it. I'm willing to debate those issues. So it's not about the Republican Party itself that I have problems with. It's the character and the individual and the rhetoric and the behavior and the history of the individual that we're talking about, the president, that I find objectionable. And I'll be honest with you, I was traumatized. I'm not Muslim. I was traumatized when he won. I'm not going to lie. I was sad. I was depressed for a few days. Granted that if Hillary got in, I would probably have been sad too. I would have been relieved that Donald isn't in, but Hillary was just, if possibly even worse. So after after a few days, what I said was, everything happens for a reason. God puts everything into play.
So are you a libertarian?
It would have been worse if we had Hillary. Maybe it would have been worse if we had Hillary. Only God.
So are you a libertarian where you think that just everybody should just take responsibility for themselves?
No,
Government should.
I'm independent. I'm open to libertarian and Republican ideas. I'm open to. I'm progressive in a lot of my values, so I'm open to Democratic. I'm open to different candidates. Like, for example, in New York, when Michael Bloomberg, flirted with possibly running, I was interested in that. I was interested in what Michael Bloomberg would propose, and he's very independent, right? He has some conservative values, he has some progressive values, and that's the type of thinking that I like. I mentioned in the Introverted Smiles interview that I followed Bill O'Reilly for a very long time in his book Culture Wars, that pits the progressives against the progressives against the American traditionalists. I mean, it's such a black and white book, bro. Like, why do you have to be progressive or conservative or completely? Like, why can't, like Chris Rock said, I'm conservative about some things and I'm liberal about some things, right? He used some curse words in that I won't use. But it's this black and white thinking that I don't get. I don't get black and white thinking when it comes to religion, and I don't get black and white thinking when it comes to politics and morality. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
So would you agree that it's culture? People are Christian because of culture. People are Muslim because of culture. Would you go back to the cultural thing, because you brought up an interesting thing about progressive and, black and white and stuff like that. And I'm just thinking,
Yeah, but here's the thing: cultural. Yeah, for most people, it has to do with cultural inheritance, right? For most people, it has to do with cultural inheritance. That ultimately doesn't matter in the bigger picture. You can look at it if it's true or not logically and scientifically. You can look at it from the perspective of, is it helping me and making me a better person? You know what I mean? So even if you inherit religion like Muslims and Christians do, for sure, they inherit this culture, and it's not a good reason to be Muslim or Christian, in terms of truth. But yeah, I do think that a lot of it is cultural inheritance, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if we didn't have tradition, the morality would become a major issue, and if morality is a major issue, that leads to mental health crises, and that's what I think is going to happen when liberals take over. Right, the statistics show that when the baby boomers die, the millennials take over. All of the statistics, the research, the scientific research shows that millennials are mostly liberal. So, for example, they did a map based on how millennials in America voted, right? This is a future generation that's going to take over. Bro, the entire map was blue. The entire country was blue, right? And so, but here's the thing, even though it becomes blue, what I believe is that the liberals are going to mess it all up with moral issues, thinking that it's all okay. Then there's going to be mental health crises all over the place, addictions and trauma and behavioral patterns that result out of the immorality that we're going to see. And then a new wave of conservatism, a future generation, a new wave of conservatism is going to come about that's going to challenge some of these moral issues. So that's the way I'm kind of imagining that it's going to happen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because over the years, I've changed, you've changed, we've evolved perspectives. I haven't left Islam, but then, I saw that, Muslims are, they're changing, they're adapting, but I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, because, you have Muslims who stay in the conservative realm, Muslims who just, are just Muslim by namesake. They don't really follow the 5 pillars or whatnot and stuff like that. So my question is, like, do you think that, like, Islam in America, is it going to get more conservative or less conservative? Is there going to be a cultural clash? Like, what are your thoughts on Muslims in America?
Yeah, and again,
do you have any advice?
And we'll wrap up with this because I actually have to go teach in an hour.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, I think the future of Islam in America, I think as the generations continue, there's going to be less generations that are immigrants and more generations that are born and raised. So as a result of education, exposure, diversity, the Muslims in America and in the West and in Europe and in other, Western countries, that they're going to be more open-minded and liberal, right? I also think with the rise of New Age spirituality in the West, that Hinduism and Buddhism are on the rise in the West. That's just, I don't think that that's my bias. I think we're actually seeing that. Not Hinduism, Buddhism specifically, but at least New Age spirituality. But there's a lot of Hinduism, Buddhism too. But in terms of the future of Islam in America, I think generationally, they're going to be more open-minded. But because globalization is happening, we're becoming more global. The future generations of other countries are going to be so interconnected with America and the rest of the world that we're going to begin to have a global culture. And a lot of people fear that. A lot of traditionalists feel that. I don't know if that's going to happen for certain, but based on the trends that we see, that we're headed towards a global culture.
Oh, okay. Final question: Marvel or DC?
Marvel, only because I was a big only because don't get me wrong, I like DC too. I remember having that vivid imagination about Marvel characters when I was a kid.
Oh, so you didn't see Batman vs Superman?
Versus, yeah, definitely.
Oh, you saw that?
No, I mean, like I said, I love DC. I mean, in terms of movies or comics, or it depends.
Yeah. Did you see this version?
Yeah, it was a bit ago though.
Oh, okay. What'd you think? Did you like it or?
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was. I mean, it was okay. You know what I mean? So I personally like it better when it's just the individual character rather than all these other superheroes. You know, just tell the Batman story, the Superman story. I mean, I've enjoyed those a lot more than I have, you know, with some of the integrated movies. But I thought that movie was pretty good, pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
Wonder Woman, you know, where they ruined that with the trailer. So
I'm more of a DC guy, but yeah, I get where you're coming from. So thank you so much, Farhan, for joining us. And yeah, we should do this more regularly. What do you think?
for sure, Ehteshaam, you know, it is refreshing to talk to a Muslim who practices and is completely liberal, is completely open-minded, listens to music, goes to Wendy's, watches Batman and Superman. You know, there are normal Muslims out here, and people need to know that. So I appreciate you. So assalamu
Okay.
alaikum, assalamu alaikum, namaskar, and hope to see you soon.
Have a good one.
Me too.